influx of people, cars, and litter. There would be an increase of lost and found property, outbreaks of petty violence and drunkenness, and misadventures by the daft and unprepared, as well as many unforeseen problems. Rarely a week would pass without a blemish of some kind. These problems have led the moor folk to question the merit of sharing their inheritance with others who care so little for it, and there are times when one wonders if we should attempt to deter those who spoil the blessed tranquillity and beauty of nature's finest places. Perhaps we should increase our efforts to convince outsiders that the whole of Yorkshire is a land of pit-heaps, back-to-back streets, and factory chimneys. It's an image we managed to cultivate in the past, and it might prevent the thoughtless and careless from plaguing our landscape. Such thoughts often occurred to me as I patrolled the more popular parts of the southern aspect of the moors. It was on such a tour of duty, one bright and sunny Sunday in early March, that I was experiencing a cool breeze that brought goose pimples to the flesh, and a threat of rain or even snow on the higher ground. It was not the sort of day when you'd expect an influx of tourists, but with Easter close at hand, and with some workers using the last of their annual holidays before the 31st of March, I found that the honeypots of the moors were busier than expected. I think the bright sunshine was responsible. People loved to drive onto the moors in such conditions. An added bonus was that after a shower of rain, the clarity of long-distance views was remarkable. Some seemed to stretch almost into infinity, and picnickers would sit in their cars to admire distant places. It gave them the feeling of being on top of the world. In my official minivan with its blue light on top, I was enjoying a 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. shift, and it didn't escape my notice that I was getting paid to tour the moors while others were having to do so in their own time. During the first few hours I found little to harass me. I had spent time report writing in the office at Ashfordley, followed by an hour in Bransford, where I patrolled the market town on foot as the church bells rang. After this, I decided to drive on to the heights above Layersbeck, with its scattering of cottages around the tiny chapel. There was a forestry commission plantation nearby, and over the months we had received occasional reports of damage to several units of firefighting equipment. These were left unattended around the perimeter of the trees, and we wondered at the mentality of those who destroy or damage life-saving equipment. I would inspect them during my visit. I would also eat my sandwich lunch on the moors. Just like a tourist, I'd find a view of my very own. My decision made, I drove to the top of Bracken Hill. I would park there and enjoy a walk along the heathery ridge, with its own fine views of Layersdale. Once I was out of the sheltering fabric of the van, the wind was chilling, and more than fresh in spite of the sun. A brisk moorland walk would be an excellent appetizer. And so it was. A leisurely ramble around the plantation showed that the firefighting equipment had not been interfered with. This pleased me, and I decided upon a short diversion from the route back to my van. This took me across the open moor, where a skylark was singing, and black-faced sheep roamed without hindrance. Up here there are no fences to contain the sheep. They live almost as wild animals, each instinctively remaining within its own patch of heather, or heath. Heathed ewes are those which are mature enough to remain within their own territory, and at that time of the year many were carrying unborn lambs. Others had already given birth to delightful black-faced infants, and the tiny lambs were tough enough to survive the bleak conditions which prevailed. I enjoyed the brisk walk, and found myself upon a little used track which led back to the car park. As I strode across the heather, moving rapidly to keep warm, I became aware of a Bedford personnel carrier which was parked on a nab top. A nab is a protruding piece of land. This one overlooked Layersdale, and the vehicle was positioned so that its passengers could enjoy the views on all sides. Someone had selected the ideal place for a picnic. As I approached, a large brown and white mongrel, the size of a greyhound, leapt from the rear doors. It was fussing about in a state of some excitement, and was immediately followed by 3 laughing children. Dog and children galloped away in a frenzy of barking and shouting, and there seemed to be a large family with the vehicle. As it stood with its rear doors wide open, I could see the wooden seats which ran along each side, with 3 seats in the front, one of which was the driver's. The driver, a tall man in his 50s with greying hair, was laughing and calling encouragement to the children and the dog, and at that moment I felt happiness for the family in their exuberance.